Hey, sorry for the quick interruption, but it'd be incredible if you considered subscribing to the Solid Verbal YouTube channel right down below.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow college football fans, I am so proud to be here today on this grandest and most venerable of stages to announce that the state of our college football union is strong. We stand today on the precipice of a groundbreaking chapter in college football history. For sure, defined by change, but also by innovation, by passion, and by unparalleled excitement. This is the year when the rubber finally meets the road. Thank you. That excitement touches all aspects of the game we love. Conference realignment is bringing teams together and creating new Saturday traditions. The college football playoff is ushering in an era of inclusivity, giving 12 teams a chance to compete for the ultimate prize. Name, image, and likeness has created chaos, for sure, but opportunities for many more student athletes who for far too long have been denied the right to profit from their contributions to their schools. The transfer portal, while demonized by some, has given players yet another important tool in shaping their futures. And those are just a few of the developments we should celebrate in 2024. That's what gets the headlines. But we know there are far more things to talk about. Quarterbacks with helmet radios to shield plays from prying eyes. Streaming TV with quad boxes for the most dedicated of home viewer. And finally, after a decade-long drought, we have a damn video game. Let's not forget about the return of old rivalries like Texas versus Texas A&M, of old players like Tyler Shuck and Cam Rising giving it one more go, and of old friends like legendary broadcaster Dan Hicks, who returns to the NBC broadcast booth this fall. Let's not forget about new faces in new places, as Kalen DeBoer takes the reins in Tuscaloosa, and as Nick Saban joins the set of College Game Day. And of course, I'd be remiss to not mention the original, the wonderful, the often imitated but never quite duplicated, the gold standard for college football podcasts. The Solid Verbal is still alive and well. No, I have never felt more optimistic about where we're headed, and I hope you'll join me on that journey straight into the heart of Fansville. Dr. Pepper, not a sponsor, could be. Tonight, I also extend a special and warm welcome to our guest of honor, new head football coach for the University of Washington, Jedd Fisch is here tonight. Jedd embodies the appeal of college football from sea to shining sea, from his early days in North Jersey to his college days in Gainesville, and now to his latest run out on the West Coast. Coach Fisch has seen the effect of college football on this great land, and we are thrilled to have him here in attendance tonight. True story. We only got him here tonight by saying that this was secretly an interview with the University of Florida. My fellow college football fans, this is the year when our dreams of tectonic realignment are finally realized. Forged in the online fires of Orange Bloods and Frank the Tank a decade prior, realignment is finally here. It will not be without its challenges. Along with new matchups, rivalries, and storylines comes a deep-seated fear that the pursuit of money is ruining the sport. For sure, the money is better, but so too will be the games, the product, the experience for college football fans far and wide. By reshuffling conferences, we're not only revitalizing old traditions, but also creating new ones. College football must, college football will prove this in 2024. College football's also putting its money where its mouth is. For decades, the sport has feigned inclusiveness while purposely designing a system to leave too many programs out in the cold. Those days are officially over. Yeah! The expansion of the college football playoff is a monumental shift in the sport's postseason dynamics. By accommodating 12 teams, this playoff format opens doors for underdog programs to finally vie fair and square for the national championship. It amplifies the intensity even further, while also steering into that pageantry that we hold dear. It puts first-round playoff games on 4 lucky college campuses, and it's going to showcase why college football has the greatest fan base in the world. You know, when I travel this great land from Boone to Boise, from Reno to Ruston, the one thing you come to know is that the quote-unquote small market teams, they're not looking for a free pass. They're not looking for an automatic buy. They just want a chance, man. This is America. This new playoff system is like America. It is for everyone, regardless of size or stature. As long as you've got a dream for something greater, you're included in the 12-team playoff. Speaking of something greater, let's talk about NIL and the transfer portal. Some of you out there have demonized the 2 most important ways that players in 2024 can gain some agency over their futures. Amid the chaos and hand-wringing is one simple truth. These rights are long overdue. NIL and the portal have revolutionized player rights and made it harder for schools to take their services for granted. Is it complicated and complex and imperfect? Of course. But so too was that moment in the not-so-distant past when a coach could simply leave his team twisting in the wind under the banner of an interim. My fellow college football fans, there's work left to do. On the next leg of this journey, players will be deemed employees and at long last share in the spoils negotiated by their university presidents and conference commissioners. We can do it. So as we navigate the winds of change sweeping through the landscape of college football, let us remember one fundamental truth. Change is not to be feared, but embraced. It is through that change that we evolve, that we grow, that we reach new heights of excellence. Let us embrace this new era with open arms, united in our passion for the game that we love, and with eyes open to the simple reality of 2024. College football is better this way. In closing, let us draw inspiration from the indomitable spirit of college football, a beacon of hope and unity in a world that's often divided. Together, let us write the next chapter of this storied tradition, guided by the values of integrity, sportsmanship, and of course, camaraderie. For in the hallowed stadiums and fields where dreams are forged, we find not only the spirit of competition, but the enduring essence of the American spirit itself. Thank you. May the spirit of college football continue to shine brightly across this great land. God bless college football, and God bless America.
And now for the rebuttal.
Bravo, Ty. Bravo. I can see how much effort went into all of that. Your optimism, your enthusiasm, your vision. But what's lost in that optimism, enthusiasm, and vision is a simple question. And that question is, for whom is this a glorious future for the sport? Truly, for whom? And it seems to me that it's a future for and by the television networks with almost exclusivity. And we talk about realignment being this great bastion of positivity and change and reform and evolution. But I am somebody who actually does travel this country. I don't just watch the Meineke Car Care Bowl. I find myself at a Meineke Car Care Center. I am speaking to the people. I am at the taco shops. I'm at the restaurants. I'm at the diners. I am at the tire centers. You are sitting there in Pennsylvania getting fat off of your pretzels and Amish chicken. While I'm actually talking to people, I know the conversation. And if people are not familiar with Ty Hildenbrandt, there's some things you need to know about where he comes from. Now, we talk about the TV networks being the beneficiaries. Well, who spent billions upon billions of dollars on a new Big Ten contract and brought in West Coast schools to kill West Coast football. Ty wouldn't understand West Coast football. He's from Pennsylvania, once again, getting fat on pretzels and Amish chicken. That'd be Fox. That'd be the Fox television network. Now, I bet you're wondering, what does that have to do with Ty? Does everybody know where Ty Hildenbrandt got his start? Does everybody understand why Ty Hildenbrandt is a household name in 2024? He started his career at, and you can fact check me on this, Fox Sports. Ty goes way back with the Murdochs. Way back. And here he is talking about realignment. Here he is talking about the beauty of player movement and NIL and the portal and coaches. The line is direct. The line is clear. This isn't some sort of sine wave where you're checking off. No. This is Ty Hildenbrandt being in Rupert Murdoch and Eric Shank's pocket. We know this. This is old news. I hear about realignment, and I think to myself, this feels like the work of a chiropractor, right? And not a reputable chiropractor to realign one's back. This is a Lady Foot Locker adjacent chiropractor that says, oh, we get Texas A&M again. Why did we lose it in the first place? It was the brilliant minds behind college football that lost us. What? West Virginia, Pitt. That lost us Texas A&M. That lost us Missouri, Kansas, right? And now it's those who taketh are now giveth. These are the people we're trusting. Ty Hildenbrandt, the head of this Zordon. This is what we want in this sport. I agree with him about the football video game. That's great. I'm willing to concede that we have common ground here. College football is great. Football video game, EA Sports, it's great. Can't wait. But let's look at the bigger picture. Ty talks about inclusivity. Inclusivity! A 12-team playoff. Everybody gets a chance. What he doesn't mention, though, with that transfer portal, those teams who finally get a chance also get their rosters pillaged. UTSA, great story. Lose their best edge rushers to Texas. Lose their best corner to Oregon. But you get a chance, UTSA. Oh, how about a school in the MAC? How about Kent State? Sean Lewis, innovative mind. He gets hired away to be a coordinator. A coordinator. The once proud Mid-American Conference. The salt of the college football earth. Not just playing on Saturdays. Not just playing on Fridays. Tuesdays. Wednesdays. This is the conference, mind you, of Randy Moss. This is the conference, mind you, of Khalil Mack. And maybe Ty needs a refresher in his own state, perhaps the Dr. Oz of Pennsylvania. Little guy named Jack Lambert. Oh, but Ty doesn't go to Western PA. Ty's a regional PA guy. Just like he's a regional college football fan who does not understand the plight of the fan everywhere, who's being asked to donate to an NIL collective after being asked to donate for the right to buy season tickets or the right to have a plaque above a water fountain in the athletic department. Come on, get out of here. He's out of touch, and I'm the one telling you what you see is what you see. And you see problems. You see the fact that your favorite team has a roster of players from elsewhere or who are about to go elsewhere. You are not grounded in the knowledge of who's going to play linebacker year to year, who's going to play right tackle year to year, who's going to be your killer safety year to year. And Ty will be the first one to tell you, longtime New York Yankee fan, right? Who are his favorite Yankees? I'll bet it's not Ron Coomer. I'll bet it's not Tony Tarasco. Come in, leave, Cubs, Twins, Mets. No. Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams. Because there's something bedrock about knowing who you're rooting for. And this new era, Ty's okay with. This is what's great for him and his at the TV networks. New actors, new actresses, new concepts. But yet, he celebrates older players hanging around. These boomer quarterbacks. Miami has a 9th-year tight end. Dylan Gabriel, Bo Nix at Oregon. Combined 14 years of college football or something. Is this the sport we want? Is this the sport? Do we want Ohio State to have an offense called by UCLA's head coach with the ball snapped from Alabama's center to Kansas State's quarterback who's handing it off to Ole Miss's running back? That's what we want this sport to be? Really? When Ty goes around to his supposed conversations around the sport, his guest of honor is Jedd Fisch. He brings up Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer abandons a championship quality team to go elsewhere. Jedd Fisch abandons a Big 12 caliber conference championship team to go elsewhere. You know this. I know this. This is the reality that you appreciate, that you love, that you cherish. Not me. Not the people I speak to at Meineke Car Care. Not a single person. I'm kind of disgusted by all of this. Ty's talking about the radio in the helmet. Oh my gosh. These are crumbs. These are crumbs that are being thrown at you. You're hungry. You're not hungry for what was. You're hungry for what could be. And what we're seeing in front of you, it's disappointing. It's flat. It's empty. It's disheartening. And this is what he celebrates. Pennsylvania. It's revolting. We love this sport for a number of reasons. We love this sport because of what has happened and what we hope will happen, right? We love this sport because of the games we watched with our family, our friends on the West Coast, the Midwest, the Great Plains, Nebraska, Oklahoma. We see that often? Not really. No. We love this sport because of what we see in the Southeast, East Coast, Northeast, wherever you go. You have that scar tissue of those losses against teams that you hated, or those shining memories against those teams that you loved, or the victories against the teams you hated. You know what I'm saying, because we're all on the same page here. We're all speaking the same language. And we have coaches who leave the sport who suddenly, after making dozens upon dozens of millions of dollars, say, oh, well, something's wrong with this sport. Only after they make the money, of course. Something is wrong. And so I stand here today, not to say that Ty Hildenbrandt is a bad person, not to say that Ty Hildenbrandt has ill will, but just Ty Hildenbrandt's not speaking to you. Ty Hildenbrandt's speaking to those who line his pockets. That's who he's speaking to. And if you want to trust Ty, if you want to believe in Ty, that's your choice. But do you feel like this sport is heading in the right direction? Did you watch the Orange Bowl last year? Was that something that you felt like, oh, this is a healthy sport? We need to watch more of Georgia, Florida State. We need to see a game that someday John Boyce is going to make a 58-minute video about. 144-3, whatever the final score was. Get out of here. Ty's not a bad person. Ty's just the wrong person. He's not willing to look you in the eye and tell you what needs to be fixed. He is the chiropractor outside of Lady Foot Locker. And I tell you today, humbly, warmly, go to a doctor's office. Go to an orthopedic surgeon. This is a sport that needs to go under the knife, that needs work. And it's that work that got us Rondane. It's that work that got us Melvin Gordon. It's that work that got us every single Wisconsin running back. There's a reason Wisconsin generates those guys. They grind. They find linemen. They have identity. They have vision. And now what do we have? Oh, let's hire an air raid guy in Madison. That's the vision we want for this sport. Everybody can just do whatever they want all of the time. Maybe that works in your America, not in mine. I'm Dan Rubenstein, and I appreciate your time.
All right, Dan, that was spirited.
I'm in a fugue state right now, Ty. I have no idea what I just said.
Linking me to the networks was mean.
Again,
That was mean. You told me before our little exchange there
Yeah.
that I shouldn't take anything you said personally, and I didn't.
no, it's all business. It's all politics, Ty.
But that got me a little here, man. That got me
Was that wrong?
deep into my core.
You did start out at Fox Sports, right? Yeah.
I did start out at Fox Sports, next grade
Okay.
sports
Just
writer,
making sure.
year of our Lord 2006.
Yep.
Okay, so you seem to. How do we want to do this?
I think I
You
mentioned
seem to-
Meineke car care a few times in there.
You seem to mention that what I was describing
Mm-hmm.
is a college football state of being that is not for anyone.
No, it's for somebody,
Not for anyone
not for a fan.
like you and I.
Yeah.
Not for the fans, but instead for the networks, instead for the folks that are looking to cash in on college football, as opposed to those of us out here who watch every Saturday, who live, breathe, and die college football.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad argument, but I also think it's been made into a bit of a caricature. So I don't fully disagree. I do stand by what I said in my emotional, my powerful, my riveting, poignant speech on the floor of the House,
Yeah.
that ultimately there will be great games to watch on Saturdays. Ultimately bringing Oregon into the Big Ten, bringing Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC.
Yeah.
That will mean more matchups of substance for the home viewer, for the college football fan at large. I don't think that is a bad thing, despite the fact that there are a lot of detestable bits to this new world we find ourselves in college football in 2024. I'm okay with those matchups and with that product as I sit on my couch on Saturdays.
But do you think, I don't know who I'm talking as right now, Dan Rubenstein or capital D Dan Rubenstein? I don't know. I don't take issue with the fact that people like big time interesting matchups, but I think in a perfect world, they'd want big time interesting matchups against familiar opponents, right? That Alabama, Wisconsin is never going to be as interesting as Alabama, LSU, even though we'll get, for example, right in the Big Ten this year, we're going to get Oregon, Ohio State. That's a big deal. I think 10 out of 10 times Oregon fans would rather beat USC, like a good Oregon team against a good USC team. So I see the sort of generic argument for it, but I think it leaves out the emotion and sort of reality of fandom.
Just because in the past your Oregon fans would want to beat USC does not mean moving forward in the future that they won't also want to crack at teams like Ohio State, at teams like Michigan, at teams like Penn State, at whoever is rising to the top in the Big Ten. If you are a fan of a premier institution, you want to see what that school's got against other premier institutions. And so that argument to me, while certainly grounded in some truth, falls a bit on deaf ears, because I think you always want to play the best teams. You always want to give your team a crack at the best teams out there to prove their mettle.
I guess. I think you want to beat the best teams that are in your traditional conference, and I'm just a forlorn, a love-lost West Coast football fan, so maybe I'm the wrong narrator here. But I think what it does is it nationalizes something regional further. And I don't know how many people are truly on board with that. I think there are West Coast fans who say, the conference was dying, it was mismanaged, it was misrun, and you needed a lifeline, you needed a lifeboat or whatever, and the Big Ten was there, and it's nice to have, a secure future. Doesn't mean people actually feel good about it. To me, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe West Coast people are like super pumped to like go to Piscataway and College Park and all those places. But I don't know. It has a weird feel to it that it didn't feel like there was a wave of like this needs to happen behind it. In
One
the
of
way
the
that
things
some other issues have that wave.
Two of the things that we agreed on.
Yeah.
The video game. Yeah?
Yes.
We feel overwhelmingly positive about the video game.
My grandsons love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if the video game stinks, it's still good to have it back.
Yeah.
The second thing, and I didn't hear you mention this, but I know just from doing the show with you for 15 years.
Yeah.
I know that we are mostly in agreement on the NIL and transfer portal front. It has certainly introduced chaos into college football. It has made things more complicated, more complex.
Mm-hmm.
As I said in my poignant, passionate, very truthful speech on the House floor. But it also has afforded players rights that they did not have previously.
Definitely.
The ability to earn some money, in most cases, not life-changing money, but some money on their likeness, much the way Olympians have for generations. Earn a little bit of money off of that fame. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think players having the ability to transfer from school to school on a moment's notice is inherently a bad thing. I think there probably should be better guidelines around it. I think they're trying to find a way to corral it a little bit so that it's predictable, so that coaches, to their point, can predict what their roster is going to look like when they break camp. But by and large, giving players those rights is not a bad thing. I think we agree on those 2 points, maybe nothing else.
Yeah, well, look, if you're in this role as being the advocate for the system, then it's the system who sort of decided not to set those guidelines, right? Like, yeah, we have chaos. Why do we have chaos? Like, well, it's the NCAA, it's the college football playoff, it's various conference commissioners who all couldn't get on the same page and get on the same page of athletic directors and presidents and everybody like that. So the people responsible for setting up guidelines and guardrails sort of said, I don't know if those can exist. I don't know if we're the right people. And they just sort of passed the buck. And so now we have that chaos. It's great for players to make money. And I'm not going to say a but here. I've seen a lot of people say, like, I'm all in favor of NIL and players making money. But, and then as we all know, it's the after but is what you really mean. I'm just saying the spirit of NIL, the spirit of players earning money is not at any given moment, I can go transfer to Mizzou for a raise or Oregon or Florida State or Alabama, right? That wasn't the spirit of the legislation. So that's the only issue that I think people seem to have, where if we're going to have pay for play, then we should have contracts. We should have schools being a part of this. And I think people are largely in favor of players making money for their contributions, especially with skyrocketing TV deals like the ones bought and paid for by your boy, Rupert Murdoch.
Sure, my boy, always.
Way back with him, right? Was that 06, 07?
06, yeah.
What are we talking about here? That predates the solid verbal.
I mean,
so the big thing is just like, how do we get players this money in an organized way, in a fair way, in a way that rewards contributions and market value as players, not just Instagram users or something? And how do we make it official? And the people at the top decided to just pass the buck off and say, I guess we don't really set in place any hard and fast rules that we can all, every conference, every president can agree on. And so that's the issue right now is I think cooler heads all agree that freedom of marketability, even freedom to transfer, it's a good thing, especially if your coach leaves, especially if circumstances in your life change, especially if like a system changes. There are a number of reasons where like a player should transfer. And it's not bad that a player would transfer to make more money, that a player would leave a school that can't pay his market value. But the ability at like a drop of a hat to just leave, to just hold up a roster, to hold up bowl practices, to hold up, a vision and plan moving forward. It doesn't seem like the system is in a sustainable place.
No, it isn't.
Real quick, if you like the video, please consider subscribing to the full podcast at solidverbal.com, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. All the links are down below in the description.
And I think we'd agree on that. The thing that I did not mention, I know we've had this long disagreement about the playoff system.
Yeah.
Since they first made the playoff system.
Yeah.
Right. I have always said since day one, I'll reiterate it. People who listen to this show know that I've driven home this point until I've been blue in the face. 4 teams in the old system was stupid. It was stupid because there were 5 power conferences. Inherently, one of them was going to be left out. They designed it that way. They kind of hid behind the logistics of it. On some level, it was probably meant to embrace debate and steer into that side of college football, which we know is a big part of it all.
Right.
But it was always dumb to me that they would do that. I always wanted more teams. I always thought that would be better. Now, we could debate the merits of what's the right number. Is it 6? Is it 8? Is it 10? Is it 12? Is it 14?
2. Yeah.
2. I believe going to 12 is the right move. I support it. I stand by what I said. If anything, if they're going to expand it, I would hope that they put provisions in that make it a little bit more inclusive to the non-power 5, whatever it is now, the non-power conferences. Get more of those teams in there. If we're all playing under the same banner of FBS, more teams should be part of that playoff, even if it means that the first round matchups aren't as good. I don't care.
Right.
What's fair is fair. I think we have a natural disagreement on that point. I've always argued for expansion. You've always argued, in a sense, for just going back to the Bulls. What I did not mention, though, in my touching, gripping, once-in-a-generation speech on the House floor is the most recent conversations about going to 14 teams. That scares me.
Mm-hmm.
That scares me. Some of the early talk about that scares me because the conversation has not centered, at least over the last week, around who are we putting in this? How are they qualifying for this playoff? It has instead centered around, well, the Big Ten and the SEC want more money. Unequal revenue sharing.
More automatic teams, yeah.
More automatic teams. And as we start going down that path where it is truly, and even to a greater degree than we have seen in the history of college football, a situation of haves versus have-nots. When that gets even more amplified than it had been previously, that scares the crap out of me because that is one genie you cannot put back in the bottle. If we start giving more money to those two conferences, and I get that people make the argument all the time, well, those are the conferences that are winning the national championship. Okay. But I feel like it won't be long before we spiral into a Super League breakoff type situation where the Big Ten and the SEC say, screw it, our conferences are the best.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to play each other for the national championship. We're going to have our own championship. Everybody else can do their own thing. Weirdly, before you know it, we kind of arrive back at a bowl setup where different conferences play different conferences. But by and large, that setup to me is what I'm afraid of. I did not mention it in my speech. I don't know where that's going to go. I've heard a lot out there. It seems like they're inching closer to coming up with some sort of arrangement for 2026 and beyond. I'm okay with what they've got now, 2024, 2025.
Right.
2026 and beyond, an expanded playoff, different revenue sharing, that type of thing. I think that gets us into murky territory. I'm not excited about that. The other thing that I would add on top of this all, and maybe it is the singular defining point with where things stand in college football right now, but I mentioned it in the speech, players becoming employees of universities, sharing in that revenue. What that does to college football, for me at this point, is entirely unpredictable. Much the way NIL and the portal were sort of great disruptors and sort of this thing we saw coming but didn't fully know what the result of it was going to be. I have absolutely no clue what revenue sharing is going to do to this thing. It could totally nuke it and start the whole thing anew. I truly don't know what that's going to do. And so while I believe with all of the money that is changing hands, it's important that the players get a slice of that pie, I'm also a little bit fearful of not knowing what the hell happens next. Because it seems to me like amid all this chaos and uncertainty and disorganization around the sport, for any number of reasons, adding this on top of it, I don't know. I'm a little worried about that.
I mean, look, it's to go back. I mean, we've talked about before. It's the old Ben Thompson adage. I think it's Ben Thompson, right? Everything bundles and then unbundles, and it's just a complete cycle. So if right now we're bundling up a playoff, if right now we're bundling up conferences, eventually What's happening right now? Right? ESPN, Fox, and like Warner Discovery or whatever are launching their own sports streaming service. So Peacock and Paramount Plus are going to come together. They're going to merge, right? Everybody does their own thing, and then they realize it's better to bundle up. And then everybody thinks it's better to do their own thing. So maybe we're bundling up. We'll have, weirdly, I think it's maybe a zag of mine that it would be incredible if the SEC and Big Ten broke off, because it would sort of reignite the nonsense factor. It would separate college football from the NFL once again, right? That you randomly have two conferences who find a serious champion, and then the rest of the conferences come together and they find a fun champion, and you can decide if you're like a fun guy or gal or a serious guy or gal, right? And that doesn't make sense. It's weird that they can't all figure out how to find somebody to be their champion, but that would be fun. It would be like a weird, like, yeah, I guess on this side of things, it's going to be Ohio State LSU. And on this side of things, it's going to be Clemson and Utah.
It's like old school WWF, WCW.
But we also, what do we get again, right? We get dueling national champions. We get multiple, claims to a national championship. That's sort of vintage in its own way. And so that's my zag, that would be weirdly fun, where you get G5s, ACC, Big 12, Notre Dame would have to choose like the son of a divorced couple, like who gets custody. But in a weird way, that actually sounds demented and fun. So I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to get to a point where everything's going to be blown up. And I'm very curious to see how that process shakes out. But for the time being, it feels like a 12-team playoff to me. Like at the bottom of the 12-team playoff, there's like a kind of a participation trophy element. You're like, shh, I know you're sad. You lost your rivalry game. It seems like losing a third game is going to tank your postseason chances. But for old time's sake, you can go over to Madison and play an opening round game. Sure, Alabama. So that's what the feel is when you get into double digits, where you're like, you're not playing for a national championship anymore. You're playing for a TV show. You're paying for like a mini series. And then you're also like asking a team to potentially play 4 games in a playoff if they play in that opening round. So in the current system, you're asking a player to go from playing 12, 13, 14 to potentially 17 games. That definitely has the feel of like yesterday's price is not today's price. And something that will need to be broached if you're asking players to play that many more games. And so there's a lot of consequences to where this sport is going. And it just doesn't feel like anybody's fully thought it through. And again, you're at the top of the system giving the State of the Union. And so the buck stops with you.
That's right.
While you're getting fat in PA, forgetting about Jack Lambert eating your Amish chicken and pretzels.
Amish chicken, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. All right. Well, look, this was a goofy concept for a show, but one that was needed, a conversation that must have been had if it wasn't already had by the masses out there in the verballerhood. Write in solidverbal@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts. You can also hit us up across all of our social media channels. Let me know what we got right, what we got wrong. Did you like the speeches? I don't know. Did you like the rebuttal?
To be clear, I think I only meant about 73% of what I said in the rebuttal. But
73% still a lot, man.
I think that's significant. I think I'm totally I fully stand by almost everything. I didn't mean to slander chiropractors. I'm sure there are a number of very, very good
next
chiropractors
to the Lady
out
Foot
there.
Locker. Yeah,
I could certainly probably use some lower back adjustment from carrying this episode of the show.
I've been sitting in this chair for so long editing.
Yeah.
That part in the beginning to make it sound like I'm on the house floor.
Can I tell
you? My back is roaring.
Masterwork of yours.
Thank you.
From a production element, I felt like I was in the chamber, and I felt like almost a fraud that I didn't deserve to be in such a hallowed place. So you did a great job with that.
Thank you. It did sound like it. We did make it sound like that.
And I even saw you as you were playing that you were like hitting the mark button on your keyboard, be like, I got to tweak that crowd.
There's work
response.
To do. Yeah, I took about 10 notes as we went through the dry run. The people who hear this won't hear any of those things that I picked up.
I stand by the fact that if you are going to get your back adjusted or realigned, to not do it outside of a Lady Foot Locker. I do stand by that. I'm trying to look at what other notes I wrote down during your speech. Yes on video game, old rivalries. I wrote down Jack Lambert, Ron Coomer. Are you a Ron Coomer guy? Apologies to Ron Coomer, who I think is or was one of the voices of like the Cubs on the radio here.
Yeah. I don't know who that is.
He was a utility third baseman on the 2002 Yankees. Okay. Tony Tarasco, right?
Oh, Ron Coomer. I do know Ron Coomer.
Yeah. I was trying to find like esoteric Yankee names to just throw you off a little bit. And I was going to say Chili Davis, but I felt like he made like enough of a contribution to the Yankees. I was like, no, he's a pretty like legit Yankee. He didn't only play for the Yankees. Was he in Oakland A, I think?
He played for the Royals, I think.
Yeah, he was around, but I think he made decent contributions to the Yankees. So I think he's a real Yankee as far as I can tell. But my other notes, realign, arrow, chiroprac. I did look up the best Mac players of all time, and I think I nailed a few of them.
This is fun. It was fun. We'll eagerly await the feedback that comes in from the community after this one. A little bit of a different show, but hey, it's the bottom of the off season right now.
No, top. This episode was the top of the off season.
This is the top of the off season. Okay. This is the time in mid-March when you roll episodes like this out. So appreciate your feedback. Let us know your thoughts going out to verballers.com. That, of course, is our Patreon, early access, ad-free episodes, access to Discord, and any and all games that we play here in the off season and moving forward. Hit subscribe or follow wherever it is you get your podcast, Dan.
Yeah, I tried to break you with the Meineke car care stuff, and I did, but you muted yourself. So it was not, people couldn't hear that I kind of took the piss out of the seriousness of your speech.
I was dying. That was beautiful. You did a good job providing comedic relief. That was perfect.
Thank you.
All right, good episode. Thank you, one and all, for bearing with us here. Concept episode. We'll get back at it next week. In the meantime, for that fine gentleman over there, as always, my good friend Dan Rubenstein. For myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, you know the drill. Stay solid.
Peace.